Hello and welcome to another episode of Soul Nectar Show, that show where we talk about all things essence, where we gather around the campfire and we share our stories of connection to that which is bigger than us, to the big mystery, the divine, beyond the veil, the moments of synchronicity and connection, where we have a realization. And those realizations are just so precious, really precious for us on earth here in our earth amnesia. And so I love to share stories of connection to essence and to that which is bigger than us. I'm your host, Carrie Hummingbird, and this is my favorite thing to do, whether I'm doing it on Soul Nectar Show or I'm doing it in my butterfly circles with people who are ready to self-actualize. It doesn't matter. Every place in my life, this is the conversation that's happening because this is the conversation I love. And today I'm really delighted to bring another amazing guest to you all today, Marcia Martin. Welcome, Marcia.
Thank you so much. I feel so honored to be here, and I'm delighted to have you interview me and to be on your show.
Well, I am really excited to have you here because you guys, Marcia is pretty amazing. She's one of the most prolific influencers on the who's who of most innovative minds in thought leadership in the last 40 years. She's the CEO of Marcia Martin Productions, which specializes in transformational leadership training and communication arts technology. And she also, she's been involved with a little known thing called Landmark. I mean, hello, if you guys know what Landmark is, yes, like this lady's been involved with that since the beginning of it, since its inception. So wow, that's a lot. Instrumental in taking a company, from its inception all the way to where you see it today, which is pretty incredible. So there's so much to say about Marcia, and the show notes are going to have there's too much to really list here. Just know that she's amazing. She's consulted with or trained or coached some of the best known thought leaders in our time, including Jack Canfield, Tony Robbins, Lynn Twist, and so many more, Doria Cordova. I mean, there's just a bunch. So check out her bio. If you weren't aware she was involved in all that, that's who you're talking with today, or who I'm talking with on behalf of you. So, so exciting, Marcia.
Oh, I'm so excited to hear myself after all of that.
I know, it must be really exciting, right? Like, because the part I'm in is the part of there's just one mountain after the other to climb. It's like, okay, now I climb that mountain, I got another mountain to climb. I climb that mountain, I got another mountain to climb. And where you're standing, it's like, wow, look at all the mountains I climbed. That's awesome, and you still got some ahead of you, but you're like, that's pretty cool. 40 years of mountains accomplished. That's like a legacy. That's amazing. How does that feel?
Yes, well, it feels amazing and wonderful. I was a young girl when this all started, and the history of it is my aunt was a clairvoyant healer. So you'll be interested in this. And she was an esoteric astrologist. And so I interned with her when I was a teenager. So by the time I was 21, I was healing people. You didn't tell anybody that you did those things then. That was kind of a secret.
That was taboo, yeah.
Yeah. But I know how to create energy, and I knew how to bring things into existence, and I knew how to take care of health, and I knew all about the chakras, and I had learned a lot from her. And I learned a lot from her on how to think and how to be with people. And then from that point, I think it was just, I was kind of in the flow. And I think the universe just kind of saw my light, so to speak, and made sure I was at the right place at the right time. So by the time I was barely 22, I met Werner Erhard. And at that time, he was just starting to train people. And he had one course with 20 people in it. And it was called Mind Dynamics at the time. It was before EST, which was before Landmark. And I took that training. And I was one of his first 20 students. And we went from there to starting EST. There was 5 of us that really put EST together in terms of filling the trainings and expanding the organization. I became the senior vice president, and for 10 years, I worked to expand it from those original 20 people to millions of graduates worldwide. And I was in charge of communication registration division, which meant that I handled all the PR, the marketing, the sales, the production, the registration, the enrollment. I filled all of the events. I started filling small events with 10, 20 people in the very beginning days. And by the time I was there for 10 years, we were filling the Cow Palace with 20,000 people a month. And we were having events with 5,000 and 3,500, and we had hundreds of centers, and I had 5,000 people reporting to me in my division, and I had created the Guest Seminar Leaders Program, which was to train the guest seminars leaders and the trainers how to present and be effective public speakers and how to enroll. So it was an amazing journey. And when I left there, I pretty much was infamous and famous all at the same time. And I knew everyone because during the 70s and 80s, everybody took S, which became Landmark. And from that time, I've been able to continue my work and to deliver seminars and workshops on my own and to do life coaching and executive coaching. And I spend a lot of time with corporations now, training their executives in championship performance.
That is so beautiful. Well, congratulations on an amazing career. And, you know, just in so much service to so many people
Thank
for,
you.
you know, because this is hard work, you know, like stepping into personal development, like the inner exploration is it's the true journey, I believe. And it's one that many of people avoid for a long time because, you know,
True.
it's easier to go, hey, that person's doing this to me, and you know, but the journey to go, oh, wait a second, I'm a player in this thing, is a hard journey to start taking, but then once you're on it, it can be addictive. And I know that your expertise one of your expertise is in enrolling people, and I know that my audience has a lot of people with amazing gifts that are healers or mystics or whatever is unfolding for them, and they're like, I just want to share my gift with people. And I just can't figure out this part about like attracting and law of attraction and bringing them in, and how does, you know, like, how do I get such an amazing business where like I'm serving all these millions of people that I know I want to serve? How does this, you were saying you were in the flow, and I know a little bit about, because I've had a recent experience of being in the flow with my book, which is like 28 weeks now on the
Yes,
bestseller chart.
congratulations. That's
Thank
fabulous.
you. It's like amazing to me to not be doing it. So like it's just happening. I have a feeling it's similar to what so tell me about like being in the flow for you. What does it mean that you just got into the flow and all this stuff started just happening for you?
Well, first of all, you have to understand that I was being trained at a very early age, and I had extraordinary mentors. My mentors when I was in my early 20s were people like Werner Erhard, Buckminster Fuller, Warren Bennis, and Peter Drucker, two of the top leaders in management in the whole world. Swami Muktananda, Jerry Weintraub, one of the greatest producers of all time in Hollywood. Those were people that I worked with personally and who personally taught me. So I, you know, was at their knee, so to speak, and learned from them directly. So first of all, that was extraordinary. So I kind of grew up inside of the fact that there was flow. It wasn't something I had a problem with. It was something I came from, and it was just natural to me. Not being in the flow was more of a surprise than being in the flow. And I think I can explain it. If you look at consciousness, consciousness is in stages. So before we get into enrollment and how you grow an organization, the fact that how it happens, the flow is usually, most people start off kind of being in a stage one consciousness, which really is about being at the effect. And they look at the world as the world is a bunch of circumstances that they're at the effect of. So actually the world operates on them, or it acts on them, and they're at the effect of it. And that goes along for a period of time. And then what happens to a human being when they're in that particular relationship with the universe is they'll have a breakdown or a crisis. There will be something that happens because it's not natural to be at the effect. That's not how the universe works. So when you're that way for a period of time, after a while, things build up, stress happens, upset happens, emotional breakdowns happen. You know, you have all of these things that aren't working. And after a while, some big thing happens that's a crisis. And in that crisis, there's an awakening. Sometimes we need a breakdown in order to have a breakthrough.
Oh, I know that one. Yeah.
Yes. And in that breakdown and that breakthrough, usually what people realize is they have power and they're not at the effect, and they can be responsible and they can get things done and they can cause circumstances. However, that's a kind of stage 2 consciousness. And when you first get in touch with that kind of personal power and will, and I can do it and I'm not at the effect, I can make things happen. Usually what you're doing is you're doing it for yourself. It's a world about me. How many houses can I have? How much money can I create? What can I do for myself? How can I have more fame? And it's pretty self-centric. And that goes along for a period of time. And what happens when you move into stage 3 is you get enough houses and enough cars and enough money and enough relationships and enough sex and enough certificates and enough awards that something calls within you and you realize you start having a question, is that all there is? Because there's something missing and you don't feel fulfilled. And in that question of, is that all there is, you get in touch with a longing inside of yourself, which is a natural space for all human beings to come from, which is you realize you want to make a difference. This is bigger than just yourself. You want to contribute. You want to cause something to happen for a community, for a family, for, a society. You want to make a difference. You want to serve. And that's a real stage 3 kind of consciousness. And that is an amazing place. And that's what we're in the middle of right now. Most of us are at a place where we really have awakened that wanting to serve and wanting to make a difference within us. The coaching business has exploded. People want to help others. People want to, transform. People want to take courses. They want to do something that's bigger than just getting a paycheck. Well, then stage 4 is something that I have personally found in my life. I'm in the last quarter of my life. So I'm in the last 25%. I've been around for quite a while. And so things are different now for me. And I think they're different because of this place that I've been wanting to make a difference since I'm around 12. So this has been something I've been doing all my life and been trained to do from the time I was in my early 20s, to cause transformation, to be of service to people. So in stage 4, what happens is, I think the best way to describe it is the universe notices that you're working for the good. The universe notices that you have a light, that you do make a difference, and you have a purpose to make a difference, and you're about a bigger, higher calling. And when the universe notices that, how I describe it is the universe says, okay, let's use her. Let's use him. Let's take over, and that's flow. And flow is where suddenly you just come from a place where you are in the right place at the right time. And if you're not in the right place, something happens to pull you out of wherever you are and throw you over to where you should be, because the universe is using you. And it's almost like you don't get to be petty anymore. You don't,
I know
you
this
don't get
one.
to, yes, you don't get to be lazy anymore. The universe knows who you are, what you can do. And it's a very special time in history. So the universe uses you. And that's what's happening to me in my life and has been happening for some time. So one of the ways it uses me is I am an expert in this thing called enrollment. And I look at enrollment totally different than most people do. And enrollment is sales, only everybody hates that word sales. And every time I'm in a corporation training, I work with a Hard Rock hotel executives all over the world and teach them about championship performance. I've worked with Warner Brothers. I've consulted Avion Water. I've consulted Intercontinental Hotels. So I have big time corporate executives who think they know everything. And when I start working with them, I realize that almost everybody thinks selling is something that you do by pushing, something that you do by filling up the space. And what I mean by that is people will say to you, oh, you should have this. Oh, you should do this. Oh, this will be good for you. So essentially, if I talk like that to someone, I'm telling them what's so for them. I'm telling them what's good for them. I'm telling them what they need. I'm telling them what they want. I'm telling them what they'll get. And the truth of it is I don't have the right to do that. what I have the right to do is to share my own experience and to inspire people, not manipulate with trick statements. Trick statements like, oh, if you can, buy a soda once a day, then you can afford this because it's only 20 cents a day. That's a trick. And it's telling someone else how they need it and how they can afford it. Enrollment is a different perspective. It's a perspective where I don't tell you what you want or you need or you can afford. It's not my job. My job is to make it safe enough for you to be able to look inside to see what you want or need or can afford. And that's a big job, and it takes a lot of courage, because when people go inside, they get frightened. Because mostly inside of all of us is the fear that I'm not enough, I can't do it, somebody's going to find out that I'm a fraud, I don't know, I'm lost, I'm not that confident. All of those kinds of things are going on, and we're pretending on top of that everything is okay. So if I ask you a question or share an experience that causes you to look inside to see what's so for you, mostly what people go is, I don't want to go there. We'd almost rather be told what's so for us than to actually look inside and find out we don't know. And so it's a process of being able to be with another human being in a very compassionate way, where you can take out all of the stuff that's there and receive it in such a way that they have some room or space to look.
That is so good. I love that. Keep going. I just love this.
Okay. Well, and then it's a process, and this is the really hard part, is once you discover that someone wants it. So if I say to you, wow, I had this most amazing experience. I took this training. It changed my life. I was a bit lost before I took the training, and then I took it and I found myself and I got really more confident. So I'm telling you about me. Well, naturally what's going to happen is, if that's something you want, you're going to say, oh, wow, really? And you'll start to get interested. And then I can ask you a question that draws you inside. And I can say, yeah, does that sound like something that would be valuable for you? Is that something you think that you would want? Now the person has to look, right? And then there's that little uncomfortable space where they look and they go, well, I don't know, I just don't, blah, 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 blah. And they start, and they get a real kind of feisty. And usually we're afraid of that. We go, oh, okay, fine. And what I train people to do is how to be present and how to be open and how to be connected while they're receiving. Because if they can be present, open, and connected and receive all of those reasons and excuses and fears and objections, and just listen, not try to change them, but just listen, what happens? It's like pouring out a glass of water. There's some space left. So when the person pours out all their reasons and all their objections and all, if somebody's there listening, instead of pushing them back and trying to defend and tell them why that's not a good reason, they will be empty also. And in that space, you can say, well, what do you think? Is this something that you might want to do, or you might want to find out more about, or is there a question that I can answer? Now, if when they get to that place, you can hear them say, yeah, I would like to do this. Yeah, I think it would be valuable for me. Because people will tell you, they won't say, I'm going to do it, but they'll say, yeah, I can see how that can help me. Now, they have just answered one of the most important decisions that human beings can make. Whether they want something, whether they need something, and whether they can afford something. Those are self-determined situations where you have to determine for yourself what's so for you in those things. The next piece is, are you going to do it or not? That is the least important question. The most important question is, do you want it? Can you afford it? Is it something that you feel that you need? The least important question really is, okay, are you going to do it or not? So if they answer the most important decisions for themselves, yeah, I want it. Yeah, I think I need it. Yeah, I think I could make this happen. Then it's your job as an enroller to tell them what to do to get what they want. So you never sit back and say, are you going to do it? What you do instead is you tell them what to do in order to do it. You give them an instruction It's not a question then. It's like, great. Okay, we'll fill out this card. Wonderful. Okay, well, go get your purse and give me a check. Okay, we'll take out your credit card. Now that's scary because at any moment they might say, "Wah!" You see? So it's exactly the opposite of the old paradigm of sales. The old paradigm of sales is a real sleazy salesman fills you up and pressures you, tells you what you want, tells you what you need, tells you what you can afford. Now you're all filled up and you've got all the reasons why you should want this, whether you do or not. And they said, well, you have to get this because it'll be good for you, because you need it, because you want it, because you can afford it. And then what a salesman does is the salesman sits back and says, okay, are you going to do it? And makes you make the least important decision, but the most uncomfortable. Because to commit or not is an uncomfortable decision for a human being to make because it means commitment. And people are not certain of themselves. So rather than saying, here's what I'm going to do, they'll say, well, did John do it? Did Mary do it? Can somebody else tell me to do it or not? And so it's very uncomfortable. And what the salesman then does is if you make the wrong decision, then he applies or she applies pressure where they retell you, you want it, you need it, you can afford it, till it's more uncomfortable to say no than it is to say yes. So it's exactly the opposite. An enroller lets you make the decision, do you want it? Do you need it? Can you afford it? And then they take the uncomfortable position of saying, okay, great. So here's what you have to do. And they tell you to do it. And that process includes much training that needs to happen on how you listen. What is generous listening? How you speak, how you question someone, how you are connected, how you are present. And that's the work that I do.
So I really love what you were saying because it reminds me of conscious language. It reminds me of what I'm learning in for my own mentoring of others is that I share something or a reflection from the I place, and then I allow them to find themselves in it if they want to, right? But without saying, because a lot of times I noticed in my own vernacular when it was pointed out to me that I'll often say, well, you do this and then you do that. And then when you find yourself in this situation and then you experience this, when really the whole time I'm talking about myself, but I'm using the you to apply to everybody else out there.
Yes.
That's putting it on someone, but they may not have that experience. So they're sitting there awkwardly in the you experience, like, well, I'm not resonating with that. That's not me. That's you saying you.
So that's exactly perfect. That's perfect. Yes, yes, yes.
So I think that really what you're saying is that you've found a way, enrollment is a way of, what I'm hearing you say is that enrollment is a way of applying conscious principles to the sales process. Because my goal as a mentor, for example, I've got a set of skills. I'm a spiritual guide. I've got this thing I download. I'm being used by the universe, right? I'm being used.
Yes, yes.
And so I've got a set of gifts and I get channel and all this kind of stuff. And I've got this information coming out of me that's really insightful and beautiful. And it helps me a lot because I don't even know what's going to come out of my mouth. And I'm always amazed by it. And so then it helps others that are around me. They tell me, they're like, oh, I really enjoy this. I got a lot out of that. So I desire to invite more people into this conversation with me, right?
Yes,
and
yes.
so it's helped me a lot. It helps the people in my community a lot. I just want to invite more people into the conversation. And I want to do it in a respectful way that honors the fact, because my whole teaching is that everybody is a unique thumbprint. Yeah, like a little thumbprint suit, and you slide into it with your soul, and here you are, like living your thumbprint journey, and nobody else has that journey. And the Venn diagrams that we all are only overlap like a certain percentage, right? So you can only understand, it's only really possible for me to understand someone else to the extent that my Venn diagram overlaps with them somewhat, right?
Yes, yes.
So it's not really conscious for me to project onto somebody that they would actually benefit from what I have. I don't know if they would or that I might not be the right teacher for them.
Exactly right, Carrie. You got it. Now, here's another thing for you to consider. how I would describe what you're saying when you say the thumbprint is, I always say every human being is like a unique snowflake. And the thing that makes you unique is that, you see, in this universe, there's a law in physics. No two things can be in the same space at the same time. So when you're in a particular space, you're viewing the world from that perspective. No one else has that perspective but you. And how the world shows up actually is dependent on your perspective. It doesn't show up because it is that way. It only occurs because you're seeing from a particular perspective. So it's like that picture, you know, there's the old woman, if you look at it one way, and then there's the young, beautiful girl, if you look at it the other way. Well, they're both there at the same time. They both exist, but one only occurs or shows up for you at any one instant. You can never have both show up at the same time. Might go really fast, but only one can occur in each second, depending on where you're looking from. That's like the world. That's like the universe. So everything exists in the universe, the old woman and the young woman. It's not like one thing is there and one thing isn't. No, everything's there. The question is, what shows up for you? What occurs for you? Well, that's going to depend on what your perspective is. Where are you looking from? And wherever you're looking from in any one instant, no human being can look from that place except you, because you have a body. And you have to be in a body to have your perspective. And no two things can be in the same space at the same time. So you got that totally yourself. Every single person is its own unique thumbprint and its own unique, like a snowflake, yeah? Now here's a perspective. So most people have the perspective, sales are bad. Or another way to put it is, oh, I'm not a salesman. Or another way to put it is, I can't sell. I mean, that's just a perspective. That's not true or false. That's just an opinion that we take on and we consider that that's so we look from that place. If we're looking from the place of, I'm not a salesman, I can't sell, sales are bad, well, what's going to show up is all sorts of evidence that proves I'm not a salesman and I'm not good at this, you see? And it's going to prove that sales is bad and it's terrible and that's, you know, something you have to watch out for and you don't want to do it because you don't want to be one of those bad people. Here's my perspective. And I think this works better. It's not like it's true or false. It just seems to work better. I get better results if I look at life this way. And how I look at life is a guest seminar. And I've looked at that way since I was 20 years old when I was leading guest seminars. Werner taught me that. He said, all life is a guest seminar. You're always in a guest seminar. You're selling something to someone all the time. Whether it's you're enrolling somebody into going to a movie with you, or you're enrolling someone into going to bed with you, or you're enrolling somebody into buying a product that you have, or you're enrolling somebody into that you should be the person that speaks about this. Whatever it is, you're selling something to someone. That's all there is. Life is a guest seminar. Now, if you look at it from that point of view, then you can start saying, wow, I better get good at this shit, right? I hope that's a
You better get good at it.
Yeah, scientific term there.
Scientifically speaking.
Yeah. So and what that is if you think of life as, here's another perspective for you. There's space and things in space. That's all there is. Space and things in space. So what that says is you have to create space if you're going to have anything to exist, because the thing has to have space in which it can exist. You have to have the space first. So how do you create space within yourself to have a new point of view? Or how do you create space in someone else so that they can consider something that they hadn't considered before because they're so filled up with other things they've been considering? And that's where communication comes in, and generous listening. Because if I can listen in a way that I can actually take things out of your space, then I can put something in. But until I empty your space, you don't have space for anything that I have to say. You just have whatever you're filled up with. And everybody's filled up. And if I'm going to take something out of your space so that you have space to consider what I'm sharing, this is called a conversation, I have to have space to take the things that you're sending me. And mostly everybody's filled up, including the person that's listening. So how you create space for someone else is through generous listening. How you create space for yourself is through meditation. You get more space when you're still, which allows you to give someone else some generous listening so you can empty their space. And then pretty soon you can have an exchange back and forth. And how I see conversations, it's not what you say. I look to see if you have space. And when you don't, I'm listening. And when there's a little space, I'm putting something in. And it's that kind of a dance. And that's kind of the work that I teach people in all of my seminars and workshops and in my championship performance leadership skill sets.
You know, that is really, listening is one of the most important skills I've learned since my awakening in 2012. Yeah. Because before that, I did a lot of talking because I paid people to listen to me, you know, on a couch for decades, weekly.
Yes.
Yeah. And I would just go in there and rant for like an hour or so about all the terrible things. They would get a word in edgewise. It was my one space to speak. And, you know, sometimes you need that. Sometimes you just need to be able to speak it, and speak it again and have somebody willing to listen.
That's
right?
Yeah.
And then you can start to listen to yourself.
Yes,
that's where the
very good.
Really happens.
Yes, very good.
When you listen to yourself, and then, and not only just listen, this is one thing I learned from the shamans, because I did work with the shamans, is they listen, but they don't really believe what you're saying. It's not that they disbelieve you, it's that they're like, yeah, they hold that there's a bigger truth underneath all that stuff that you think is true.
Yes.
And they, and see, then they hold, and then they go to the nugget of that and expand that for you while you're speaking. So almost like as you're speaking your stuff, you're almost really even more aware that it's not true. Like, oh, I'm feeling the sense now that all the stuff I just said as excuses, it's not really true.
Yeah.
There's question there.
Well, here's how I hold it.
Okay.
Another perspective, okay?
Yeah.
If you're listening, it can't be you.
Yeah, well, you mean what you're talking about is soul presence.
Well, I'm talking about
listening?
all the chatter. Like, that's what we say we're listening to ourselves, is we're listening to what we're thinking, or we're listening to what's going on and all of that. But I'm telling you, if you're listening, it can't be you. So there's a bigger piece.
Yes,
which is what your shamans are saying, which is, yeah, all of that, I'm not so sure, there's something underneath it. Well, there is something underneath it, and it's not the chatter. It's a bigger space. And that's one of the things that I do in my life, is I teach people and I show them how to access their personal power, their personal way inside. Most people look outside themselves to find out about themselves. Well, what does somebody think about me? That's more important than what's going on with me and me looking to see how I'm thinking, right? So if I can teach people, there's only one way you can change, one person you can change, and that's you. But when I'm coaching, I got to tell you, everybody wants to talk about the other person they want to change. Nobody wants to say, and here's how I'm looking at it. They always go, they're bad, they're wrong, they should change. If only they would, if only it would be different, life would work. And it's exactly like the shamans were telling you. There's something bigger. All of that chatter, all of that's, you know, it's not the truth, really. It's just noise.
Not, but there just seems like there's a lot of evidence sometimes, you know, like you might have lifetime of evidence of a story, but I'm realizing deeper and deeper that that was just really good, artful storytelling.
Well, also, think about this.
Your mind creates those connections. I mean, it looks for it.
Well,
you know?
That's what I'm saying, is what comes first, your position or the evidence that proves your position? Your position comes first, and then you go about creating some evidence that proves you're right about your position.
And you ignore all the other evidence that could be happening simultaneously because you just don't even see it. It's not visible. So this is what I try to tell people too. I had to learn this myself because I've done that my whole life. I think we all do. And then trying, you know, just unweaving and dismantling it to inject a question inside of it to see, oh, is that even true? I love one of my teachers, Jose Stevens, talks about this, he has his long story I'm not going to share here, but about a monk, and the monk in town, and he's a teacher, and everyone thinks he's wonderful until one day something happens and they think he's not wonderful, and they come and tell him, oh, you did this, that, and the other thing, and we're upset with you. And he says, oh, is that so? And then a little while later, the story changes and something happens and they come back, you're wonderful, we're so sorry. Oh, is that so? Like,
yeah, it keeps going back and forth.
Yeah, back and forth until you finally realize, oh, is that so is really just it. I mean, it's, is that so is the question, because our minds are always making up stories.
Yes, is that so? And the fact that you're saying it's so is what makes it so, not that it is so.
And it's really, you know, getting to like Eckhart Tolle is like the power is in the now. I'm getting to that more and more and more now that's where the power is. And even when I just spoke for the Evolutionary Business Council in my higher, I did the closing, right? And I was really nervous because all these people I really respect. And I had all of my notes, like, because I was trying to be very conscious of my language, and they're all written out on the notes and all this kind of stuff, like word for word, verbatim, like what I'm going to say. And the morning I got woken up early, and White Eagle, who's my guide, says, yeah, we're not, throw that out, Carrie. We're not doing that. I'm like, uh-oh.
Yay, White Eagle. I like
what
him
are we
already.
doing? White Eagle says, Carrie, meet me in the now and find out.
Very good. Very good.
Okay. So this is really the whole, I mean, I'm even getting to a place around you know, manifesting and that kind of thing now, because I realized through working with White Eagle, inside of me, instructing me, stop trying to spot what I'm going to say. Stop trying to create it in the future. Be right here, right now. Don't project what I'm going to say in the future. Stop that. Be right here, right now, because you don't know what I'm going to say. And if you plan it out, I have to erase it, which causes more work for me. And that's what it's telling me in my brain. Stop trying to predict that. And then just be here right now.
Yeah, very good.
So this is what I'm learning is to just, and I think that's the flow, is to be in the flow and not thinking or anticipating what's going to happen. Let go of all that and just see what unfolds in the now.
Well, I always tell people there's two main laws that you first need to learn about communication. One is you must be present. The sender and the receiver have to be present for communication to take place. You would be surprised how many conversations are going on around the dinner table, in front of a room, at a board table, in an organization where nobody's home. Somebody's on their phone texting while the speaker is speaking, so the receiver isn't present, or the sender is so afraid to speak and so concerned with whether they look good or they don't look good, they're not present. And that art of being here now needs to be trained into a person. You need to practice it so that you can be here now, because that's the only place communication and connection take place. And then the second law is there has to be space in which your communication can exist. So you have to create space first. Before you put anything into the space, you've got to have the space to put it in. And things like your emotions and your ideas and your language and your words and your articulation take up space. And everybody is, like you're saying, so concerned about speaking and what they have to say that they forget, wait a minute, maybe it's more powerful if I just really am present and be here now with a person and receive what they're saying, instead of trying to make up what I'm going to respond with. That's not present. And if I'm receiving, then I can get them, and then they'll have some space. So those two laws are really important. It's like gravity. You know, we accept gravity. We've learned to organize our lives around gravity. Nobody goes out the 10th floor window and says, today I'm leaving by the 10th floor and not the lobby door, and screw gravity. It's just, you know, you don't do that anymore. You organize yourself around gravity. But nobody organizes their communication and their relationships around presence and space. And they're just as big as law as gravity is. So,
it's important to you, actually, because what I realize every single time I trust and follow and do as I'm told, then what happens is that I'm present to the room. So in that moment, I was present to the room, and I was present to what was on psychically, because I am psychic. I was present to what was on the hearts and minds of the people in the room, because I was being so present that my
Yes.
psychic gifts were then employed.
Yes.
And then I was able to speak directly to their hearts and say exactly what was on their minds and their hearts, because it was in me. I was there. And
Yes.
and that was powerful. And Teresa de Grosbois, who I know you know, she's like,
I
Carrie,
love her.
that was masterful engagement. You got everybody engaged. They all activated. That was incredible because everybody did the thing I asked them to do. They all did
That's
it.
great. That's
So,
great.
but because we were all there together. And so I really, I understand though, Marcia, I understand people that say that they are thinking of the next thing they're going to say before the person's even done speaking. Because I used to be that way, because I used to feel like if I didn't plan that out, I would get
Hmm.
lost in the conversation and I wouldn't have a space for me to be heard or show up. And because the other person would just like kind of trample all over me or something. And I think
Yeah.
people feel this way. I think they feel like they're not going to get heard.
I think so too. And I think there are a lot of fears. That's one of them. So there's so many other fears. There's a fear that not that I won't get heard, but that I won't say the right thing. That's
Yeah, I won't
another
explain
fear.
it correctly, or
Yeah.
I'll say the way it feels to me. This is also empathic people. I've noticed empathic people, we choose our words differently. Like for me, the experience, and I've confirmed this with other people who are empathic, they say, yes, that's the same way, is that I feel the word. I
Yes.
feel
Very
the
good.
word, and then I've got to filter the word feeling in through a language net in order to come up with the correct word to speak. And that isn't like, that's not
Oh, that's
instant.
great.
It's not
Yeah,
instant. Whereas
that's
other
good.
design types, they don't need that filtering process. They just go straight from mind to mouth and bam, there's the word. And so they're very good at like debate and all that kind of stuff. Whereas people like me, not so good at debate. We're better at like wisdom and depth, like, but not like quick, fast, hard
Yeah.
debate stuff. So there's also that communication difference. How do we blend? How do we create
Yeah.
space for everyone's gifts in communication?
Well, and absolutely, and to recognize that everybody does have a gift and to have collaboration instead of competition. No one can do it on their own. We all need every single gift. That's why I'm excited right now because I just created this thing called the Marcia Martin Membership Club.
Yes, talk about that.
And the Marcia Martin Membership Club is my work online, like a Netflix. Like you go to Netflix and you pick a movie and you watch the movie. Well, I've just created, we just started this last month, and people are raving about the results they're getting. Like if you watch it or listen to it, even a half an hour a week, your life gets transformed. It's unbelievable. People are telling me, my marriage is turned around, it's working better. Oh my God, I did the best speech I've ever done. I just made more money than I've ever made, and I just did what you told me to do in the workshops. So what it is it's $10 a month. I'm in the last quarter of my life, so my mission right now is give my work away and really make it available. And all the wisdom that I've gotten, I want to somehow distribute so that people have the benefit of all of the things that I've learned. They've helped me in being very successful and happy and joyful and having this incredible life. So I think I want to pass that on. So we put together this great site. It's called marciamartinclub.com, and you can go there and register and find out all about it. It's $10 a month. And then all my workshops, my podcasts, my speaking engagements, all of the things that I've done over the past many years, we're uploading. And you can watch them in the comfort of your own home or any place you want to watch or listen to from in your own time at your own pace. So for example, if it's a 3-day workshop, that would cost somebody else $1,200 to take. You get the benefit in the club of being able to watch it when you want to.
Which
And
is
it's all,
awesome. Yeah.
yeah, it's all broken down into modules, and it says how much time, what the topic is. So it's everything from, if you want to learn more about intimacy and sex, I've got some great things called relationship secrets. That's just to die for. And
Sounds
then
juicy.
it's very juicy, championship performance and leadership. So that's my newest project and how I want to do my next phase of my work.
Well, I really feel your joy and your enthusiasm with this, Marcia. It's so gorgeous. And
Oh,
I really honor you for your, I mean, just a lifetime of dedication to service and leaving a huge legacy like this for others. to really benefit from the work that you do. And I know that you and I talked about this off camera earlier, but this is something that when you hear something, certain people are able to do this. And I'm not sure about everybody, but certain people are able to do this. I know Marcia's able to do it. I know I could do it. Where like when you speak, a realization comes through, like the channeling comes through as it does for you in the moment, in the now, and then you speak it. It's an activation that actually changes it at some fundamental level. It opens up people's consciousness. It's like a really cool thing. And this is like this whole interview that's been happening. So just like notice in yourself, wow, because it's been happening this whole time that we've been talking on the interview. So just go back and notice like what's shifted in you today after listening to this interview. And then you can go watch Marcia's videos and let her brainwash you for good. For good outcomes.
I say it's let's see,
rewiring
your brain. It's not brainwashing. It's just
rewiring your brain for good, so to open up more potential for you in your life. And
Absolutely.
It's as easy as that, really. I mean, well, you do have to do your personal work. I mean, you can't escape that. But these kinds of realizations and aha moments, if you allow them to, they can really influence your life in a new direction for benefit. So.
Oh, well, thank you.
It's $10 a month. How can you lose? I mean,
that's what I say.
You're only going to gain.
No, it won't be $10 a month forever, but we want to make it available for, we're building it this year, and we're building it into
So you're getting it launched. So like this is an introductory rate.
Yes.
Well, that's important to know, because it might not always be $10 a month. Is it going to be grandfathered in for people that are doing it right now?
Well, I think so. I mean, I haven't decided that anybody that's in there now is going to have the same rate forever. So that's a given.
Oh, yay. So there you
go. We'll have other programs that they can introduce themselves to. We're putting together a whole community. I think that's what I've learned in my life and I've been really good at doing, is creating communities where it's not a place you go to, it's a place you come from. And it's a place that you have, someone else has your back and like-minded, but not totally the same mind. It's an open like-minded. So I'm really excited about this.
Yeah, there's like some Venn diagram overlap on the benefit of change and transformation.
Yes. Yes.
Share that one together.
Okay.
And say
awesome.
Yes. Well, beautiful, Marcia.
Delight to be interviewed by you, Carrie. You're just so beautiful.
I really enjoyed it, and I enjoy all the time we spend together. So everybody, please like and share this episode out, because this is the way that we help the world. You guys ask me sometimes, well, how are we, all these problems in the world, how are we going to make the world a better place? How are we going to, heal the planet and save the jungles and all this kind of stuff? And you ask me all these questions. Well, self-actualization, that's how we're going to do it. I mean, that's plain and simple. And it starts with you. Yeah. And it starts with people that you think, wow, they might be interested in this. Not that they need this, as we talked about at the beginning. Not judging that somebody really could use this information because they're so backwards and really screwed up. Not like that energy, but like, hey, I really enjoyed this broadcast. This was awesome and entertaining, and I laughed, and it was fun, and it made me feel better. And would you be interested in watching this? Because I got a lot out of it. And if you are, then here it is. That kind of thing. Watch the energy and the tone as you share things out, please, and be respectful of other people on their journeys.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And like and share and give us 5-star rating on this one, because it's really good. Okay. Now that I've told you what to do, I'm going to give you a reward, because it's important to give rewards, Marcia. So
yes, it is.
You want to give some kisses to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, here come the kisses, everybody. We love you very much. Mwah. Love you. See you next time on Soul Nectar Show. Bye for now.